So, we'll talk about like fundamentals. And what fundamentals mean, I took out the word basics. And so what this came to me when I was in my dad's study at his house. My dad has his PhD in physics. He did the original research on superconductors. And all like his say his 100, 200 courses, once he got like his math, advanced Newtonian physics, advanced, I don't know, whatever, right? All his graduate books say fundamentals of or basics of, right? Why? It's like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, it does. Understanding the fundamental nature of how something works is ultimately what you're trying to do. That's what's really actually hard, is to understand what happens. Not when when one marble hits another, the distance they move apart is based upon mass and kinetic energy, but why, right? And that's what I want to go over, is like why these things work in half guard, like why half guard works and why these sweeps function the way they do. Good job, did you? So if Daryl's on top of me here, and you just sit down on your butt. I have no way that doesn't require a ton of strength to knock him over. It's not going to happen, right? And if I'm super strong, I can throw him over me, but that's completely unrealistic. Any sweep that I have from here is to require at some point his hips getting over mine, right? My hips become the fulcrum, and I knock him over. The exact same way, that a hip throw functions. My hip has to come through and lift, right? I need a fulcrum. And over that I need movement. Like there has to be some amount of movement for a sweep to happen. As long as we're both still, obviously you can't move. And as long as the person that I'm trying to sweep isn't moving, it's going to take a lot of effort on my part. Just like if you're wrestling right here, and you just decide you're just going to anchor there and do nothing, say you don't even fight. Lifting is going to be real hard, especially if you have any sort of physical disadvantage. So we need to get the hips over, your hips, and we need to get movement going. Okay? So let's first talk about how we generate movement. Everybody's going to take this on a real basic half guard.
Turn that way so the camera's on. There you go.
So, boom, boom. And he's just sitting down. I can pull him in, right? Start getting some movement that way. But maybe maybe he's just too much space. Yeah, not even fine, just sit there, right? Maybe I just use a solid purple. You ever roll Daryl, he's hard to move. So, maybe I bait him. He has to move. He goes, oh, boom, and now I can pull him, right? I bait him. I give him something to latch onto. The third thing, he just decides to move. He's like, oh, I'm going to start smashing it. Boom, and I start moving with it, right?
That's the catch.
So I pull, I bait, he dives on me, right? Those are like the three ways. The fourth, which is a little different, is you create a secondary lever, like a lasso, and I can use that to help generate additional force and momentum, right? So that's essentially how all the half guard's going to work. No matter what, like regular half guard or reverse 50-50, a De La Riva, X, whatever. It's all going to rely on that general idea. And all that based around getting this person's hips over mine. So now let's bring it to what we were just doing before. He's over me with his hands planted, right? Boom. Is this going to happen? Very rarely, if ever, against anyone who's decent. So I'm just going to take his arm, boom, get it across, and I trap. So, and again, it's never going to work this easy. I reverse shrimp and get my head next to his hips. I've taken away what he can use to stop himself, right? So I know the direction I'm going to go. Now I have to generate movement. And if he's just sitting down and maybe he sits back on his hips, I'm gonna have to put some work in. Or maybe I start moving away and I start freeing his arm and I bring him over. The point of his hips are over mine is the point that I should have at least the beginnings of a sweep. Right? Just step out and pass and all that. So we're gonna do this one more time with a partner. Right? I'm gonna go on top. This is half guard. Let's just come this way a little bit. I'm just gonna tabletop. And then sit. So he'll take an arm away. Right? Ooh. So wham. And he's gonna stuff it in. And now he's hugging me. And he's gonna bring his arm to underhook the outside thigh. And he'll bring his head in. See how he brings his head in? Because now there's usually a line from your head to your butt. That gets it closer to my hips. Now he needs momentum. Right? So first, he's just going to generate with some rocking. Right? Boom, boom, boom. Until he finally feels me come over. Right? Back steps out. Or he can just roll me right back. Which is an even better exercise because the pulling back takes a lot. Right? You really have to have your hips in position. So just here, throwing the leg. To a sweep. So, you're going to do that for 5 minutes each. And then, we're going to go over some drills to feeling a person's hips come over you when the top person is initiating instead of the bottom person doing all the work. Any questions?
I don't know if this is relevant for this one, but while you're swinging around trying to get that momentum, are you not worried about them just backstepping?
Oh, I would never just do this in a regular fight.
Oh.
I would never even get his arm across that way. Unless he is, I don't know, maybe we made a bet on me to win and then he's just trying to win his money. There's no way that person's ever going to let you just lift your arm. This is purely an exercise to get your hips under someone and start rolling them.
Okay.
To kind of understand the sweep, the moment that you can create a sweep. No, good question. Cool? Let's work 1 to 3. All right, so now that's kind of a very neutral situation, and you're just generating momentum, right? That's how you're getting in the system. The system being anytime there's 2 people touching. Now we're going to do a reaction when the top person starts initiating. Same thing. We're here. Unless again, it's pure strength and you can just shove my leg off, right? Which hopefully doesn't happen to me, even with the size difference. He has to move his body to some degree, right? He has to come in, and that's when I can start feeling, right? He comes in, boom, and I'm gonna start feeling for him to start getting his hips loaded on mine. So we're gonna go back, and for our half guard, don't lay on your back like a $2 hooker, okay? This is not playing half guard. This is just you waiting to get screwed. Here, right? So he's here, he's gonna come forward, like to say to come smash me. Boom, and I'm gonna catch him. Right? Now, I'm in position to start rocking. I take that away, and go. This will always look a little different. Almost every time, there's going to be some subtle differences. I'm on top of his Dallas half guard. And for this, all I'm going to do, no knee shield, I'm just going to come in for my underhook. So he can trap my arm, right? As I come in to smash, look what happens to my hips. It comes over, boom, boom, boom. And now he has his sweep, an impossible pass. So the person on top, to make this simple, let's come out here. We're just gonna start on top. My left hand or my bottom arm is gonna come under the head. My top arm is gonna come from my underhook, which is all fundamentally sound jiu-jitsu. As it comes, right, I can't do an underhook like this. So I have to come in. As he does, he's gonna feel for it, rock me over. Right, in judo, gonna say mutual assistance, right? If I'm standing with Daryl and he's coming towards me, I'm gonna help him by pulling him to me, right? I don't want to sit there if he's coming forward, push him. That's just a waste of energy, right? I'm gonna learn to be sensitive to that push-pull to then load him up on my hips and execute my throw or takedown, right? Just like if I'm wrestling. I don't want to shoot on someone who's backing away a lot because you're creating space, but he's coming, I can meet him and then come in for my shot.
Change direction.
Yep. Everyone understand?
Can you say it one more time?
Absolutely. So here, he starts sitting down, and I just have this crappy half guard. He's gonna shoot his underhook. I'm gonna roll him over.
Oops.
If you don't end up in like side control, you end up top half guard. That's fine, because that's not what I'm concerned about. I want you feeling them come over, and then as you get more comfortable, like say your blue belts, and now like you can ask me to go a little bit faster, right? So he goes a little fast. If I'm late to react, oh no, that's my fault. Especially if I know exactly what he's gonna do. So we reset. From here. And I'm going to hit my sweep with the momentum that they're giving me now. Cool? Let's work on the three.
Communicate.
Yeah. So talk to each other, right? If you want the person to go hard, faster, or slower, tell them that, right? Because again, we're doing this as an exercise of sensitivity, not necessarily technique.
I do that even in rolling.
Yeah. Slow the hell down.
Lighten up, slow down just a little bit.
So some of the guys, you guys have been with me for a while, heard my spiel on how we deal with conflict, right? And there's 4 fundamental ways you can deal with conflict. Like physical or mental or anything, right? If she pushes at me and I push back, right? The lowest form of warfare is siege warfare. Sun Tzu writes in the first chapter of his book. Why? We're gonna put. She's exhausted. Now what if she has to fight someone else? That arm's burnt out. Right? So now, second type. She's pushing at me, right? I redirect it. I take her energy and put it somewhere else that's better for me. The third type. She's pushing. I just get out of the way. I don't engage with it. Like a matador, right? And the fourth, she pushes, and I'll pull her in the direction she's going. Sometimes just, you can see, right? I'm here, I'm pushing at her. And she's like, ah, and so she will redirect it, right? Boom. She goes from the first to the second. Sometimes you have to use that first. Sometimes you got to stop the person. Then you redirect it. Now if she pulls, she'll help me go in the direction I'm already going. She'll pull me in that direction. Right? Or there's this strong force coming to you. She gets out of the way. And then I'm going. And that's really, honestly, the 4 options you're ever going to have when you're fighting. Especially when it comes to grappling. I'm going to be force on force. I'm going to redirect the force. I am going to help the force go in the direction it's already going. Or I get out of the way. Right? I don't engage. That makes sense? Any question what we went over with this? It seems really simple, but when you get really good at recognizing these opportunities to move people over your hips, whatever techniques you have to do become a lot simpler. Cool? Alright, let's get some more. Let's roll.
How old is your blue belt?